Gene Hackman, a Hollywood legend known for his roles in Unforgiven and The French Connection, lived a life full of glory, wealth, and admiration. But behind the grandeur of the secluded mansion in Santa Fe, a dark and eerie mystery was quietly unfolding. When the FBI investigated his abandoned house after his sudden death, they uncovered a secret beneath the floorboards that no one could have imagined. A hidden tunnel that could reveal a darker story than anyone had ever imagined. What did they find there? And what secrets had Hackman been hiding? Before we dive deeper into uncovering this secret, don't forget to like the video if you find the story intriguing, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any videos on unsolved mysteries. Be sure to share this video with your friends and family so we can explore these shocking truths about one of Hollywood's biggest stars together. A love story turned tragic. For over 3 decades, Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa were the epitome of an inseparable, devoted couple. She wasn't just his life partner, but also his dedicated companion during the final years of his life, as Hackman slowly fell into the darkness of Alzheimer's disease. For a man with a sharp mind like Hackman, the disease was nothing short of a curse. Scripts he once had memorized turned into blank pages. Characters who were once a part of him began to fade from memory, and the only person helping him hold on to the fragments of his life was Betsy. She knew when he needed his medication, when he needed assistance going down the stairs, and when he was simply lost in his past memories. Every day she would read him articles about cinema, reminding him of the glorious moments Hackman may have forgotten. But one day, that routine suddenly stopped. On February 11th, Betsy Arakawa left the house to go shopping as usual. The store's security cameras captured footage of her picking out items, stopping at a CVS pharmacy, and even buying some toys for their 3 dogs. No one thought it would be the last time they saw her. When the FBI later reviewed the security footage at the house, they saw her return, open the door as usual, and then disappear inside, never to be seen again. Hackman, with his worsening Alzheimer's, likely didn't understand what was happening. He didn't call for help, didn't leave the house, just sat there in an increasingly shrinking world, waiting for his wife to wake him up the next morning. But that morning never came. When investigators entered the house after nearly 2 weeks with no signs of activity, they were met with a scene that left them speechless. Hackman was still sitting there in his favorite chair, sunglasses still on, cane beside him, silent as if he were waiting for Betsy to appear from the kitchen with a hot cup of tea. But the house was eerily silent, with no music, no television, no signs of daily life. And when they entered the bedroom, they realized why. Betsy Arakawa was lying there on the bed in a chilling scene. Pills were scattered on the floor, a notebook open with scribbled words, unfinished sentences. Investigators believe that Hackman likely didn't understand that his wife had passed away. Late-stage Alzheimer's may have caused him to not recognize reality. Perhaps in Hackman's mind, Betsy was still alive. He may have waited for her for an entire week, not eating or drinking, just sitting there, lost between reality and the illusions of his memories. When the FBI checked the refrigerator, they found that food was still untouched. Hackman couldn't care for himself. He had forgotten how to turn on the stove, or even how to get water in the days after Betsy's death. He likely just sat there, waiting, as time wore him down day by day. But he didn't think much about it. He lived quite reclusively, with one neighbor saying, "We just thought he wanted privacy." No one realized that inside that house, an elderly man sat there, completely helpless, unsure how to face reality. Perhaps if someone had discovered him earlier, things might have been different. But in a world where everyone is too busy with their own lives, Hackman and Betsy's story became a silent tragedy unfolding behind closed doors. When the police collected their personal belongings, one small detail sent a chill down the investigators' spines. A worn notebook filled with Hackman's writing, but not scripts or notes about films, rather a list of basic tasks Betsy had written for him. How to turn on the lights, how to get water, when to take his medicine. A list that showed, despite being a silver screen legend, Hackman had become completely dependent on his wife to survive. And when she was gone, his world collapsed with her. If anyone had asked Hackman what the most important thing in his life was, he likely wouldn't mention his Oscars or fame. He would talk about Betsy, the one who witnessed both sides of his life, the brilliance and the decline. And without her, Hackman couldn't go on. Their story didn't end with a goodbye, but with silence, in an empty house, with an old man sitting there, lost in memories of days gone by. No applause, no flashing lights, just a Hollywood tragedy that no one could have predicted. When the FBI investigated the house, they noticed something strange. There was a small door in the basement, locked tight. A door that seemed to have been overlooked by everyone. And when they opened it, a secret tunnel appeared. No one knew where it led, no one knew why it was there. But one thing was certain, Gene Hackman's secrets didn't end there. If you want to follow more interesting stories and stay updated on the latest events, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to get the latest videos from us. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about these theories? We look forward to hearing your feedback so we can discuss and explore more fascinating stories together. The unnoticed absence. Gene Hackman's mansion in Santa Fe had always carried an air of formality before the pandemic. Hackman and his wife had become more reclusive than ever. No more gatherings with friends, no more long walks down the street, and even the few neighbors who had once seen Hackman began to forget when the last time they saw him was. For a Hollywood legend, someone who once captivated audiences on the silver screen, his disappearance from everyday life wasn't shocking. Hackman wasn't a fan of attention. He had long stepped away from the spotlight and had no desire to return. However, no one imagined that this absence would stretch on in such an eerie way. Hackman's close friends, who used to call him every week, began to notice the unusual silence. Unanswered messages, calls that went unanswered. At first, they thought they might be traveling. A longtime friend of Hackman recalled, "Gene and Betsy often enjoyed long trips. But then he realized that none of us knew where they had gone. No one could get in touch with them." Old friends from Hollywood also started to grow concerned. Hackman wasn't a social person, but he wasn't the type to disappear completely without leaving a trace. One of his friends decided to call Hackman's neighbor in Santa Fe. The response they received only deepened their suspicions. "I haven't seen them in a while," the neighbor said, "but I didn't think much of it. Gene is getting old. Maybe he just wanted some peace and quiet." No one suspected anything, and no one realized that a tragedy was unfolding within that house. On the first day, Hackman's mansion was just like any other day, with no signs of anything unusual. By the second day, The grass began to grow long, a clear sign that no one was taking care of it. On the third day, a few packages were left at the doorstep but went uncollected. On the fourth day, something strange began to happen. Their two dogs started barking incessantly. On the fifth day, a delivery person arrived and noted that the house was completely silent, everything frozen, with no lights, no sounds, no signs of life. On the sixth day, a few neighbors started to notice, but no one thought the situation was alarming. Then, the seventh day passed, and Gene Hackman's mansion remained completely quiet. A longtime friend of Hackman, feeling concerned about the strange absence, decided to request a welfare check from the police. "We've called him several times but received no response," they said. The local police received a request to check on Hackman and Betsy. However, with no signs of anything unusual, they did not consider it an urgent situation. When an officer checked the exterior of the mansion, they found the front door closed with no signs of forced entry. Inside, there were no sounds, no TV, no music, only an eerie silence. The officer knocked on the door, but no one answered, and they left, assuming that Hackman and Betsy simply did not want to be disturbed. But the truth was, they were too late. The police arrived at Hackman's mansion, and what they found left them stunned. The living room was undisturbed, the sofa neatly arranged, a cup of water still intact on the table, but when they entered the bedroom, the atmosphere grew cold. Hackman was still sitting there in his old armchair, his sunglasses still on, his thin hand resting on the armrest. He looked as if he were waiting for someone to wake him. And in the bedroom, Betsy Arakawa lay on the bed, pills scattered on the floor. But what really unsettled the officers wasn't the bedroom. It was when they checked the basement. They discovered a hidden door, one that no one had ever noticed before. And when they opened it, a secret tunnel appeared before them. They stood there, speechless, unable to prepare for what they were about to see inside. A scene of isolation and decay. Gene Hackman's mansion was always quiet, but today, that silence carried an eerie feeling. Tom Reyes, a local maintenance worker, was tasked with inspecting the nearby drainage system after residents reported a strange smell in the air. The smell wasn't overpowering, but there was something distinctly wrong about it. That morning, a maintenance worker was conducting routine checks when he noticed the front door of the house wide open, a strange sight for a mansion that was always meticulously maintained. After knocking several times without receiving a response, he decided to enter. What he found inside completely changed everything. Gene Hackman was discovered motionless at the entrance, while Betsy Arakawa's body was found in the bathroom. Both had been dead for several days, with clear signs of decomposition, indicating that they had been there for a long time without anyone knowing. However, the oddities didn't end with their deaths. When investigators conducted their initial check, they found no signs of forced entry. The door was intact, there were no signs of tampering, and everything in the house seemed undisturbed. At first, the case appeared to be a natural tragedy, an elderly couple passing away peacefully. However, as the investigation expanded, strange details began to emerge, making everything more ambiguous and suspicious. What seemed like a simple accident was actually hiding a complex story, filled with mysteries that even the investigators couldn't have anticipated. As one group of officers checked on Gene Hackman, the other entered the master bedroom. The bathroom door was slightly ajar, the dim light still on, and then they saw her. Betsy Arakawa lay motionless on the bathroom floor, in her nightgown, her legs curled up as if she had endured intense pain. A broken pill bottle lay on the floor, white pills scattered everywhere. Her hand loosely gripped a towel, and on the vanity was an open notebook with scribbled, unfinished notes. A chilling question arose. Did she fall, or did she choose this end? There were no signs of struggle, no signs of violence, but what had really happened in this room? The officers couldn't believe what they were seeing. Two people who had once been inseparable were now separated by a week of silence and oblivion. When they checked around, they noticed a strange detail. Hackman's 3 dogs were still alive, but one was not so lucky. A small dog lay dead in the corner of the kitchen, no signs of life left. The other 2 dogs, thin and frightened, ran and hid behind the officers as if they knew something terrible had happened. The coroner arrived quickly, but the police had a suspicion. Gene Hackman had likely passed away first, leaving Betsy alone in the silent house, and then she too had quietly passed. But what surprised them most wasn't what they found in the living room or bedroom, but in the basement. When an officer descended the stairs to investigate, the beam of his flashlight illuminated an old wooden door at the end of the hallway. This door wasn't in the house's blueprints, and when they opened it, a secret tunnel appeared before them. What lay inside left them breathless. When the forensic investigators began examining the bodies of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa, the initial theories about their deaths were quickly challenged. Initially, the police suspected that Hackman may have passed away due to old age and the late stages of Alzheimer's disease. But what about Arakawa? She had died first, suddenly, with no signs of struggle, no indications of external force, just a frail body and a spilled bottle of pills on the floor. But when the forensic results came back, everything became even more terrifying. The initial conclusion was that Gene Hackman died from a heart attack. His Alzheimer's disease had weakened his body, and his cardiovascular condition had worsened over time. With no one there to care for him, he slowly passed away without any signs of external force. Hackman died quietly in his chair in the mudroom, possibly from exhaustion or a sudden heart attack. But the most terrifying part wasn't just that Hackman had passed away, it was the absolute loneliness he must have endured in his final days. When the forensic experts examined Betsy Arakawa's body more closely, they discovered a shocking detail. She had contracted a dangerous virus that could cause severe respiratory failure and damage to internal organs. This virus is typically transmitted through contact with the feces, urine, or saliva of infected rodents, or by inhaling the virus when particles from rodent feces are dispersed in the air, or through contaminated food and drink. What was terrifying about this virus is that it can develop in the human body without clear symptoms for several days, meaning that Betsy could have been infected earlier, but the disease only truly manifested on the final day. The symptoms of this virus include sudden high fever, severe difficulty breathing, muscle pain, prolonged fatigue, and rapid respiratory failure. When the forensic investigators checked the living conditions in the house, they found numerous signs of rodents, which could have been the source of Arakawa's infection. But the biggest unanswered question remained. When did she contract the disease? And more importantly, was this the primary cause of her death? Not only were Hackman and Arakawa affected, but all 3 of their dogs were also impacted. One dog died before the police arrived, with the cause remaining unclear. The other 2 dogs survived, but their health had significantly deteriorated, showing signs of dehydration and malnutrition. Veterinarians concluded that all 3 dogs exhibited signs of respiratory infection, possibly due to a virus spread through the air inside the house. But how could a luxurious and well-maintained mansion like this become the breeding ground for such a dangerous virus? As the FBI and the investigative team continued to search the house, they noticed something unusual. The basement seemed to be absent from the original blueprints. A police officer discovered an old wooden door in the basement, a door that wasn't in any of the house's building documents. And when they opened it, a dark tunnel appeared before them. The atmosphere immediately became heavy. What awaited them inside? With flashlights in hand, they took slow, cautious steps down the stairs, and when the light shone on the far wall of the tunnel, they froze. As the police continued to search through Gene Hackman's mansion, a heavy and strange atmosphere enveloped the entire house. What they saw didn't resemble the home of a Hollywood legend. It seemed more like a place abandoned for weeks. There were no signs of life, except for 2 exhausted dogs, rotting food in the kitchen, some food left untouched, and no sign that Hackman had eaten for several days before his death. This raised a major question. Had he completely exhausted himself before passing away? The forensic report revealed that Hackman hadn't eaten in a long time, with no food in his stomach. This indicated that he couldn't care for himself in the final days without Arakawa by his side. Hackman may have been completely disoriented due to his advanced Alzheimer's disease. He couldn't remember how to call for help, couldn't prepare meals, and couldn't understand his surroundings. And so, as the days passed, the mansion slowly turned into a deadly trap. Another suspicious discovery was that the house's air conditioning system was completely turned off. During the hot summer months in Santa Fe, the temperature inside the house could rise above 35 degrees, 95 degrees. Without ventilation, the air inside became thick and oxygen-deprived. This stifling atmosphere might have caused Hackman to fall into a coma before he passed away. But why was the air conditioning turned off? Did Hackman forget to turn it on? Did Arakawa turn it off before leaving? Or was there another unexplored reason behind it? The police found no signs of a power outage, meaning the system was still functioning normally. Someone had intentionally turned it off, but who and why? What chilled the investigative team was the absence of any signs of everyday life. There were no new emails or messages on Hackman's phone, no visitors to the villa for weeks, and no grocery bills or food deliveries for over a month. The villa seemed to have been abandoned by Hackman, or perhaps he no longer had the ability to maintain a normal life. However, the greatest mystery lay in the basement. When one of the officers discovered an old wooden door in the basement, it was a door that wasn't in the original blueprints of the house. Why was it there? When they opened the door, a spiral staircase descended into the darkness. A strange smell rose from below, making the investigators shiver. They shone their flashlights down, and a hidden tunnel appeared. What lay inside left them stunned. Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa were not unfamiliar figures. They were once one of Hollywood's most famous couples, with friends in high places and fans following their every move. However, when they disappeared within their own home, no one noticed anything unusual. Why? Because they lived very privately. After Hackman retired in 2004, he completely withdrew from Hollywood, even turning down rare interview requests. He and Arakawa led a peaceful, quiet life with no social media, and family and friends rarely contacted them. Those close to them said Hackman became increasingly withdrawn, even from those closest to him. Neighbors didn't suspect anything. Hackman's estate was located in a secluded area of Santa Fe, and his lack of outings wasn't surprising, as he had maintained this habit for many years. Who was the first to uncover the truth? A maintenance worker was hired to check the house after no one answered the phone for several days. When he entered the estate, the world of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa had fallen into eternal silence. Betsy Arakawa was found to have contracted the H virus, a dangerous virus transmitted through the feces or urine of rodents. But the strange thing was that there were no signs of mice or rodents in the house. Hackman was not infected by the virus. If there was a source of contamination in the house, why was Arakawa the only one affected? Some theories suggest that she might have contracted the disease during a recent trip, but credit card data shows she hadn't left Santa Fe for months before her death. Could someone have brought the virus into the house? But why? These questions remain unanswered, and the appearance of the H virus only adds to the mystery surrounding Betsy Arakawa's death. Gene Hackman is one of Hollywood's greatest actors, with a career spanning over 40 years, and iconic films such as Unforgiven, The French Connection, Superman, and The Royal Tenenbaums. However, after retiring, he virtually disappeared from the spotlight. He stopped attending award ceremonies, avoided events, and cut off contact with most of his old friends. The life of a man who once stood at the pinnacle of glory has now become that of an empty mansion and years of solitude in his final days. When Hackman passed away, there were no loved ones by his side, no grand memorial, no heartfelt eulogies from colleagues, just a silent house, an unsolved mystery, and a cinematic legacy that will endure forever. People will remember Gene Hackman as one of the greatest actors of all time, with 2 Oscars and dozens of classic films, or as a man who spent his final years in isolation, leaving the world without anyone knowing. The truth is that Hackman's story serves as a reminder of the fragility of life. No matter how brightly you shine, in the end, the most important thing is having someone by your side when the spotlight fades. For Gene Hackman, that light dimmed in an empty house, but his legacy will live on forever. The story of Gene Hackman and the secrets hidden beneath his mansion is sure to make you reflect. These strange discoveries not only reveal the darker corners of a Hollywood legend's life, but also raise unresolved questions full of mystery. What do you think about these secrets? Could they change the way we view Hackman and his private life? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your opinions. Don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next video, where we'll continue to explore mysterious stories and shocking discoveries. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. And don't forget to share this video with your friends so we can explore these mysterious things together that we never thought possible.